Manx Radio's 1 to 3, tended by Ramsey Garden Centre.
Okay. Oh, hang on. Why is that not showing? I do have a video on my face and it's not showing it. But anyway.
Come on, Christy. Get
hang
yourself
on.
shown.
Look,
there we go.
How are you this morning?
Where are you?
I'm in the Isle of Man.
Well, I know, but whereabouts? I know you're in the Isle of Man.
On Douglas Head in
Yes.
Manx Radio. Have you been here before?
I've been to, yeah. Well, one of my favourite holidays ever, when I was 10, we came to the Isle of Man on holiday. It's the first time I ever flew, which was exciting in itself. But then my dad hired a Hillman Avenger, which at the time was my favourite car. So we went to flew and we had a Hillman Avenger. It was one of the most joyous holidays ever. And in fact, I filmed over there, it's probably 10 years ago now. I'm trying to think the last time I was there. That's the last time I was there. And I got very, very drunk. We stayed in the Hilton in Douglas and we ended up getting absolutely hammered after we'd filmed.
I love that. And the fact you still remember it is amazing. Well, one of your pals has been here quite a lot because you're pals with Lee Boardman, aren't you?
Yeah.
I remember I vaguely had a very, very brief conversation with you once at a birthday of his 40th birthday, I think it was. And I was saying to you, the Isle of Man has amazing cheese, you know, Simon. And you said, God, everyone's got award-winning cheese. And so I've never forgotten that. But I'm still proud of our cheese. I never thought I'd say that in the morning. Anyway, it's lovely to talk to you. We're talking to you this morning about being stuck in a food rut. What do you mean by that, Simon?
Well, it's reckoned that we Brits, we kind of eat 5 or 6 meals on a rotation, and with a few exceptions, you might spread it out with beans on toast, going out and getting a takeaway, but 5 or 6 meals. And so I've teamed up with Nomo, the beautiful vegan-free from chocolate brand, and we're doing something called flavour-filled. So the idea behind flavour-filled is saying, okay, so accept the fact that that's our starting point, that we don't eat loads of different dishes. What can you swap out easily? So maybe you drop down your meat and your dairy intake without losing the essence of what you do. So I've looked at the 10 most popular dishes in the UK and said, okay, what can we swap out? So spag bol, let's start with that. Everyone loves spaghetti bolognese. So rather than going and buying your beef mince from the supermarket, we're going to make it with mushrooms. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to finely chop a load of mushrooms and you're going to fry them quite aggressively so they get a little bit crispy. But then you make your spag bol in the same way. So your tomatoes, your herbs, your spices, and you still have the pasta. And you go, you know what, that was absolutely delicious. Then you go, well, maybe those finely chopped mushrooms, maybe next time I make a chili, I could use those instead of using beef mince. So flavour-filled is saying, well, let's not try and alienate everybody and suddenly go, oh, but I'm missing my spag bol. I don't want to eat a bowl full of lentils. It's saying, what simple swap outs can we do and see if that takes you down a different way in that we eat and stimulate our kind of cooking again.
And actually using mushrooms is better than perhaps using a lot of these alternatives because there's a lot of meat alternatives now, isn't there? But I'm guessing they're maybe not necessarily as healthy as just good old mushrooms, are they?
Well, that's the thing. I've never been the biggest fan of meat substitutes. You know, they're ultra-processed foods. And I'm not decrying, I'm not saying they don't have their place. But flavour-filled is saying, let's see what we can swap out from one ingredient, something that is maybe slightly more healthy. And so things like mushrooms and fresh vegetables are great. And then the other thing, this might surprise you. So there's an aisle in the supermarket, I would say you probably never shop in, which is the free from aisle, right? I was exactly the same. So you think, well, that's for people who've got health issues, dietary issues. So free from products, i.e. products that have no gluten, they have no additives, etc., etc., etc. Those products are getting better and better. And next time you go to the supermarket, have a little wander down there and you'll be surprised some of the ingredients are there. You know, you'll see tomato ketchup, you'll see kind of cream crackers, you'll see gluten-free pastas. And all those products are brilliant. They're getting better and better and better. And again, free from us saying, okay, what would happen if I did that? Will it make me feel? I've got a couple of relatives who they're not gluten intolerant, but gluten doesn't make them feel brilliant. So they've started having gluten-free pasta, and every now and again they'll have a bit of gluten-free bread, and they'll use gluten-free flour in the cooking. And they said they just feel a little bit better. And flavour-filled is a little bit. I said, if you maybe you've got a few thoughts that when I eat a load of gluten, I don't feel great. have a look at what goes on in that free from aisle and see if you can like make some changes.
I love the way you put that. Have a look at what goes on in the free from aisle. I dread to think. I don't know what it's like over there, but over here, ours is quite well behaved. Thanks, Simon. But that's a good shout. But does that mean that are we adding extra pennies to our bill? Are these things a bit more expensive?
No, not necessarily. I think that this isn't about trying to get people to buy more expensive things. The main aim is really looking at kind of the amount of meat and dairy that we take in, and those are both very, very expensive things. I mean, I know you're an advocate of the amazing cheeses in the Isle of Man, but cheese gets more and more expensive, as does kind of meat. So none of these things really are about saying they're going to be more expensive. Don't get me wrong. There are certain things that maybe have a slightly higher price tag. Some of the things that we're advocating, so things like some of the gluten-free products, might well be that they're slightly more expensive because of the supply and demand, if you like. But in the main, this isn't about getting people to spend more money. Money's tight. Nobody's got any spare money at the moment. It's not a great time. This is about celebrating what we do in terms of food. It's about saying, let's look at a different way of doing it. And can we do little swaps that are exciting without losing the essence of our favourite dishes?
Which it sounds great. And to be fair, so I've been at a pesky for a number of years now. And the thing I struggle with is the amount of time it takes to make something interesting when you're just going veggie. I mean, if you're using fish, it's kind of a bit easier, isn't it? But there's something about when I just used to use chicken back in the day, it was so easy to create something. But when you're just using veggies, it just seems to take a little bit longer. And people are a bit kind of time poor now as well, aren't they? I mean, have you got any hints and tips for doing things quickly?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is an unfortunate reality. I always sort of use the analogy of kind of steak and chips, right? So if you're doing steak and chips, it's dead easy, isn't it? You get your steak, you put it in the pan, you cook it, job done. It's hard to do that with an aubergine. You do need to do more work. It doesn't mean though that everything has to take a long time. So if you're swapping meat or even fish for a vegetable alternative, then there are plenty of things that you can cook quickly. Mushrooms cook really, really quickly. I think that a bit of advanced prep is necessary. I would be a liar to say you can do things just as quickly. You really can't. But this is about saying, okay, well, let's look at the benefits at the end of it. Whilst it might take you slightly longer, we're not advocating saying, okay, well, let's do something that takes 3 hours as opposed to 3 minutes. It's maybe accepting the fact that you might need to be a little bit more organized, because it's about saying, let's not lose the taste, let's not lose the flavor, and let's get the joy of cooking. Because sometimes I think when you cook everything quickly, you do lose a little bit of joy, because it becomes quite functional, doesn't it? You go, right, okay, if I can cook that in 5 minutes, happy days. But if you spend 25 minutes and then you think, you know what, by doing that, I actually enjoyed the process. I enjoyed the way that it is. And looking at the way that the flavors are developing a little bit more because it is taking slightly longer. That, I think, is a really nice thing to do. Celebrate that joy, rather than sort of thinking it's a pain in the backside that it's taking slightly longer. Enjoy that moment. None of us are that time poor that we can't find half an hour. We might think that we don't find that half an hour. Rather than death scrolling on your phone when you get home, spend 25 minutes preparing something delicious for your tea.
How do you convince the kids, though, to eat these things? If it's a bit harder, isn't it, to get kids on board with an aubergine?
Well, again, I think that's the joy of what we're trying to do with flexi-feb. This is saying we're not going to suddenly change everything. So your spag bowl made with mushrooms is going to be just as delicious. So they will still recognise all of those flavours without feeling that they're missing out on something. And that's the aim of it, really. I suppose it's a bit like if you equate it to music. So if a really kind of successful pop song comes out, invariably we'll sort of say, you know what, that reminds me a little bit of something I knew from the 70s, 80s, wherever it might be. So it's almost having that recognisable bit, and so you've changed the chorus a bit, and that's really what Flexi Feb is about. So you said, okay, this is all recognisable. It's little swaps that are kind of making things a little bit different.
Oh, I love a music analogy. That's good. Well, listen, I know you've got to get on. I want you to give us maybe 3 things that we should have in our cupboards to make all this easier.
Okay, so I think you want lots of good, strong flavours. I think that's a really good thing to do. I think miso is a really brilliant thing to have in your cupboard. So miso is a fermented soybean paste, and it's got that umami. So anything you're making that's savoury, adding a little bit of miso to it is going to work. Whether you're making a pasta sauce, whether you're making a casserole, that will work brilliantly. That is really, really good. Undoubtedly, you should get some Nomo vegan free-from chocolate. It is absolutely delicious chocolate. It melts brilliantly. So if you're making a custard, you're making a sauce, it's absolutely brilliant. You should definitely do that. And I think one of the other things you should have in your cupboard is good quality vanilla. So vanilla, you always think is being something sweet. Adding a little bit of vanilla into savoury dishes gives a back flavour you would not believe is so fantastic. So if you're making a pasta, you go home tonight and you make yourself a fishy pasta that you like to do, add a little half teaspoon of vanilla extract into your pasta sauce and you will think, what is that amazing flavour in the background? It will be vanilla.
Well, thank you so much, Simon. This has been very insightful, and I know you've got loads to do, so we'll let you crack on. Great chatting with you. Thanks so much indeed.
All right, thanks, Christy. Nice
all the
to
best.
speak to you.
Take care. Bye now.
Manx Radio's 1 to 3, tended by Ramsey Garden Centre.